So hello, my name is Rob and this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and in this video we're going to be doing a bit of kit bashing. And what I really wanted to do is turn the Memórians from Skaventide into some serfs, assistants, cultists, whatever you want to call them, for my favourite Space Marine Legion, the Dark Angels. This was a lot of fun. Some were really simple, and this video is going to cover really basic methods. So if you're new to kit bashing, maybe you're a little bit inexperienced, or you just want, a quick method to jazz up these guys and use them in your Space Marines, I think these are going to look great for any Space Marine chapter, having some heraldry or whatnot. They're pretty cool looking as it is, but with just a little bit of effort, we can make them fit into pretty much any Space Marine Legion. So without further ado, let's dive in. So as always, like, subscribe, leave a good comment if you enjoyed this, yada. Thank you very much. But so to begin with, Memórians. Here I've got a sprue. This is the Reclusians, the Stormcast Eternals, and the Memórians. I have unclipped one. What I am going to do is I'm going to unclip all three of these. I'm not going to assemble them just yet because I like to have a really good look at what I'm working with first. And if you're new to kit bashing, I recommend this step. It's almost like stop, look and listen. Have a good look at what you've got in front of you and work out where you want to go with it. Straight away I can see that the detail on these guys is actually really cool and easy to work with. There's no twin-tailed comments and there's no Age of Sigmar iconography and all that stuff. They're pretty plain, which really straight away from the word go, these would fit quite nicely into any Space Marine Legion with a little bit of painting. And I always say painting is 50% of a kit bash. You could probably get these looking really good. So I've checked all the detail and there's literally nothing. I think there was a little spiky bit on some guy's head that I probably am going to remove just because I thought it just looked a bit out of place in my kind of humble opinion. But other than that, I'm not actually going to do too much to the main bodies. But what we are going to do is have a look at everything now assembled. This is almost like a 2-point method that I like to do. I've looked at everything in the sprue, everything looks good. We've now got them made and we can see what we've got. Now we get 3 Memórians, and for this I'm just going to start calling them serfs because that's what they're going to be. We've kind of got this really cool guy with a banner. Again, banner's pretty cool. If you want to just paint that in your favourite Space Marine Legion, it would probably fit in. We've got this cool guy with this like incense sconce type thing. Again, pretty cool looking. Again, just you sit there and you think just paint them in your favourite colour. You might not need to do much. And then we've got this guy with kind of like these scales that are on fire. Again, don't know why they're on fire, but pretty cool. As you can see that I've left all the arm sections off of absolutely all 3 of these. I won't be gluing them on just to make things a little bit easy to work with. But now the fun part, bits. This is my favourite bit of kit bashing, and the Dark Angels have an absolute wealth of bits to choose from. Here I've got the Dark Angels veteran kit, I've got the Ravenwing upgrade sprue, I've got the new Dark Angel sprue. In that little box behind me I've got the Primaris and the Firstborn upgrade sprue. There's so many bits and trinkets, and that's just not including things that come with like the Death of Night kits or some of the more bespoke kits that the Dark Angels have. There is so much you can do with this. Things like Blood Angels, Ultramarines, Black Templars have got it so easy with bits because there is so much of it. So what I like to do is pick out what I'm going to use, and that's exactly what I've done. For the banner guy, again, I almost kind of considered maybe making this a paint video, just not kit bashing, but I've kind of got this cool little Dark Angels heraldry that I'm gonna swap and put on the top there. I'm also going to try and keep these cool scroll things, as I like to use bits later on. You never know when it could come in handy. For the guy with the like Libra scale things that are on fire, I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm just going to do an extra pouch, a little book. It's always nice to have something to read on the train. And this guy's the painting's gonna do all the hard work for this guy. I might change the scales, but I also might not. It's got these little spikes around the side of it that I might just remove to make things look a little bit smoother. But other than that, again, I like it the way it is. And then lastly, we've got this this little corner. I believe this is one of the little side panels for Terminators, I think. I'm going to use it as a cool little Dark Angel shoulder pad. I would have done this for all of them. However, the other two guys have kind of got their hoods up, so it kind of covers their shoulder pads. So I decided against that. And then he's kind of got this cool, like, brazier thing. Again, it's on fire. I'm taking the hourglass from a Judiciar, and I'm going to have him carrying the hourglass. Again, the heraldry that you've got on a lot of these bits is very Space Marine orientated, so really it doesn't even have to be Dark Angels bits, you know, or whatever, but you can get away with a lot of it. But the first guy, really nice and simple. All I'm going to do, I've got some super glue thin here, this little pouch with the little Dark Angel sword next to it. There's a nice little gap next to his other little satchel and little dagger that he's got. I'm going to push this in against the belt. And then for the next bit, his little book, I'm just going to, same again, super glue thin and attach it to his side. And then on this guy, job done. That's literally it. That's how simple kit bashes can be. My problem I have with kit bashes is sometimes when people convert things a little bit too far and they go a little bit, you know, over gilding the lily. It looks exactly that. It looks like a model that's had stuff stuck to it as opposed to something that could be an official kit. So I do try and err with caution on that. Next up, the banner guy. Again, what I am going to do is I'm just going to nip off these two little long, I guess, purity seal bannery things either side. I'm just going to wiggle my hobby knife, and then all I'm going to do is come in with my clippers and just unclip the side just here to free them up. And I'll be keeping those for later, as I thought they were a really cool piece. One thing I always do when I kit bash, I try and keep as much as I can and save as much as I can for future projects. Then all I'm going to do with my clippers, I'm just going to start nipping down the sections that I want gone. Obviously, we've got this nice flat bit on this kind of like pole that would be on fire. I don't know why everything's on fire with these guys. They're literally health hazard walking around. But I just unclip it until I've got down as much as I can. Don't take off big chunks because you can rip and tear the plastic and you might actually remove bits that you might not want to. And then with a knife, I almost just take off like thin slivers until everything's looking really, really flat. Then I come in with a little file, and same again. I'm just going to gently run the file back and forth until I've got a nice flat finish, which is exactly what I want to work with. I'm also going to repeat the process on the Dark Angels heraldry piece because I want to make it nice, and I want two very flat surfaces to adhere to. Now, if you have never pinned anything before, I'm going to show you in this video. I have covered it in previous videos, but I'm going to show you. You will need some wire or a paper clip like I've got here. This wire is a bit thick for what I normally use, so I will be using a paper clip, but anything like this can work. Now, first thing, I get my hobby knife, and it needs to be a very sharp hobby knife with a good point. I line it up with the seam lines, I push it against it, and as you can see, I twist. This is going to give me a guide hole or a little pilot hole for my drill. Then I'm going to get my pin drill. As you can see here, this is a 1mm drill bit, and where we've just made that little incision for that little guide, I'm just going to really gently let the drill do all the work, keep twisting. I'm going to pull it out occasionally, put it back in. Sometimes these jokes write themselves, I'm not even trying anymore, but just keep checking the depth of it, make sure you're not going all the way through and that you've got a nice straight hole. Well, hey, there we go. That's the first one done. And then it's time to repeat the process on this. For things like this that aren't exactly round and you can't, it might be harder to find a center, he's got this little sword pointing downwards, so I'm going to use that as a bit of a guide. And I purposely left the seam lines down the side of it, which I can actually line up and give myself a little reference point for where I want to put the hole in the middle. But same again, put your knife in, twist it, get your pin drill, and just keep turning. Same again, nice and easy. Let the drill do all the work. Once again, you don't need to push on this or anything like that, but just make sure I'm not even going to say it until you've got two very nice holes. So next up, a little bit of paper clip, and we're interested in the flat pieces. All I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to jab it in the hole. Oh my god. And I'm just going to kind of roughly measure. And all I'm going to do with my hobby clippers, it'll cut really, really easy. This is really, really soft metal, this. And we're just going to leave that. So now we've got our pin. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put the top bit over the pin. Make sure that it's not sticking out, or there's not too much pin and it doesn't sit flat. This is pretty good for what I want. It's kind of fairly spot on. It's a little tiny bit out. So all you've got to do in this instance, just get your hobby clippers and just ever so slightly take that pin down. Again, leave it longer and cut it down. You can take off, but you can't put back on. So always err on the side of caution. Cut your pin as long as you want to begin with. Don't worry. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some super glue gel, and I will be using a bit of Tamiya extra thin cement on the plastic to plastic contact. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to get my super glue. The pin is in there. As you can see, it's a little bit hard to see between my thumb. I've got fat little fingers. I do apologise. I'll try and show you. I've got a good amount on there. I don't know if you can see that. And all we're going to do is push it in the hole. Hey, thumb it in. The only thing we need to do here is make sure that the pin is straight. So I rotate the staff in my hands just to make sure that pin, this will dry really, really quickly. Just make sure that the pin is dead straight. Otherwise you'll end up with a bit of a wonky thing and you might need to bend it back. Then I'm going to get some super glue on the end of that pin once that's set, and then I'm going to get my Tamiya extra thin and I'm going to paint the bottom. So not only have we got the super glue gluing the pin in place, I've also got the extra thin cement on plastic to plastic contact. You're going to get a really, really strong bond. The staff handle will break before that join does, guarantee you, if you do it this way. Again, just make sure it's straight. You can tell by, you know, we don't want the actual icon leaning forward too much or anything like that. This is pretty spot on, but the reason why we leave that pin just so we can bend it back a little bit. You will get a bit of playing time with this, but you know, you will have to work a little bit quicker if you are using things like super glue. That's number 2 done. Really, really easy. Now the third guy, again, I've got this cool little thing that I want to use as a shoulder pad. This is a really, really easy fix. All I'm going to do is get a round file, and I'm just going to keep working it back and forth until I've really filed out. You know, I'm going to take a lot of the inside off until like any little fittings are completely gone. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hobby knife and I'm just going to trim down the shoulder pad, because otherwise it's going to sit a bit higher than the other one. It's going to look a bit awkward. A little bit high is fine, but when you're just gluing stuff on top of stuff, it can look a bit odd. So keep checking it. File, check, cut away, check it. It's one of these things where you just have to take your time if you want it to look really good and not look like it's been stuck on top of it. Again, I'm using a good amount of super glue thin here because I want a really good bond. And then all I'm going to do is just push that shoulder pad on. And there we go. He's kind of got this ornate little bit of heraldry which just makes him fit right in, and I think that was, you know, quite cool. I wish I could have done this on the other two, but it just seemed a lot of work for, you know, what you would have seen for these, and wasted a bit, so I opted not to. Next up, we are going to look at joining the hourglass with the chain. Now we can't pin this because the chain is too thin to drill. What I need to do first is cut away any excess bits of chain that I don't want. Again, I always cut above where I want it to be, just in case I make a mistake. I can take off, but I can't put back on. That's a really, really good rule to kind of learn when you're starting to kit bash and trying kit bashing, because it's going to save you a lot of mistakes and a lot of, you know, drama later on when you realise you've cut something too short. There is a little skull on the side that the chain kind of overlap, but we do get to see some of the chain, and I can always put that one at the back, so it's not the end of the world if the detail isn't there on this one. You're not really going to see it. But all I'm going to do is just make sure that any parts of the chain has been removed and that it's got quite a smooth finish. Now, again, because we can't pin this, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do a method here where I actually turn part of the plastic into its own pin. For this, you need to make sure that your surface that you're going to be doing this on, it is dead flat. we are going to repeat how we did the first step. I'm going to make a pilot hole. As you can see, I've got a pilot kind of line already there. I can line it up with the skulls, but in the center where I clipped away the chain, it's left a little white mark where I've stressed the sprue where I've cut it away. Again, I drill it, I pin it, and then all I do is I get my hobby knife and I do just poke it in the hole, whee, and give it a good kind of twist. This will bevel it, which means we've got a bit of play when we kind of ease the chain into it. So the next section is I need to make sure that it lines up, and I want to try and keep it at the same height. So what I'm going to do, because I know I'm going to use this as a bit of a pin, I'm going to mark it with my hobby knife, and then I'm actually going to cut below it. Now, really carefully, just nip it off, and then I need to kind of remove the excess bits of chain to almost make like a small pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly start kind of whittling that end away until I've got like a pin type shape. As you can see here, I have, and if I just push it into the hourglass, in actual fact, it will hold without glue. That's how tight it is. Hey, that's what she said. There we go. But all I am going to do to fix this in, and you'll get a really good bond, is lots of super glue thin, because it will melt the plastic down and it'll actually melt it to itself. So if we push the pin in, we actually get a really good solid join here. This is a really cool tip when you're trying to pin something that's a little bit too thin. If you can, use the plastic as an actual pin and insert it, and you know, that's kind of how it looks. As easy as that, with a little bit of ingenuity and just kind of simple kit bashing. Once these guys are painted up, and I will leave a link in description box below when I have painted them, whether it be a community post or I do a little YouTube short thing. But let's just take a look at them on the spinny thing. I think they turned out really well, and I think painted up they're going to look great. So as you can see, these are our serfs. Some have just got a couple of bits attached to them to make them look a bit more, I guess, Dark Angel-y. Some obviously are quite drastic, like the standard bearer or the guy now holding the hourglass. Again, don't worry about kit bashing, because 50% of the work is the painting. If you are worried about maybe not having as much iconography, consider putting like a transfer on the back of the robes, so it almost looks like it's embroidered with your chapter symbol. And that's it. That's, you know, with stuff like this, I always think keep it simple, because sometimes it doesn't need to be complicated to get a really good outcome. I really like these, but let me know what you think below. Thanks if you are still here. I do appreciate it. It's been a long one. I'll see you all next time. God bless and take care.